Good night, MH370.
The 3rd of August 2014 World Aviation Day shock event. The plane had more than 200 passengers suddenly disappeared in the sky. The most expensive search in history. Nearly 15 waiting in vain. Fall into the sea. Terrorism. Shot down. Or is there another conspiracy theory waiting? Lying, they're fooling the world. The clues are slowly being revealed. The truth is it's time to be revealed. What would be the most convincing answer? This episode is about the most mysterious disappearance in history, modern aviation industry, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. (23:11 late, the 3rd of July 2014). Kuala Lumpur International Airport, Malaysia. The Boeing 777-200R, improved version of Boeing 777, the world's largest twin-engine aircraft, preparing the final checks. For the flight journey, it's almost 6 hours to Beijing, China. There were a total of 227 passengers on board and 12 crew members. Most of the passengers are Chinese nationals, 50 people with Malaysian citizenship, and in addition to being citizens of 12 other countries: Indonesia, Australia, India. Take a flight today. He's a veteran airline pilot. Country: Malaysia. Zahiri Ahmad Shah, 53 years old. And a young co-pilot, Farik Abdul Hamid. New to flying a Boeing 77 from the end of 2013. 12:41 MMS. The plane received the order to take off on the runway.
MH370 turn right to runway 32. Good evening.
About 10 minutes after flight stabilization, the captain has contacted air traffic again and is licensed to climb 25,000 feet.
This is MH370. Good morning, 370 roof to height 25,000 meters.
Immediately after that, the flight continues to be instructed, climb to 35,000 feet.
370 continues climbing 35,000 feet. Keep steady on this flight.
Just like any other flight. The flight is still going very well. About 1:18, the plane began to approach the southern airspace of the South China Sea at an altitude of 10,670 meters. The sky at this time, very airy and comfortable.
370 frequency relay 120.9, Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam. Good night, MH370.
Just think, it's just a simple wish from the pilot. But no one could have expected that. These are the last signals before MH370 become the most mysterious aviation disaster modern history. And then just a minute and 43 seconds later, at exactly 1:22, giant Boeing plane disappears without a trace from radar screen. MH370 has really fallen into a long sleep. All the efforts, contact and determine the location of the flight, then all failed. The transponder on the plane has stopped working. After all, what happened to it? Or someone turned it off? No one has the answer. Just know that it's a world-shaking event. Immediately, the largest search in history, with the participation of 26 countries, mobilized dozens of military aircraft and warships equipped with the most advanced detection equipment over the South China Sea and the Gulf of Thailand. Four days after the accident was March 12th. A small ray of hope flashed from the Malaysian authorities. Their military radar that doesn't depend on a regular repeater. We've picked up the last signal from MH370 at 2:40 a.m. The plane went off course, then suddenly turned left, passing through Penang Island, Malaysia, and then continued to the northwest. Fly for about 7 hours after running out of fuel and signal loss in the South Indian Ocean. None. Along with this announcement, Malaysia also admitted it's just a bit of vague information, and they can't be sure of anything because their radar can only detect flight signals. I couldn't figure out what kind of plane it was or what flight. The speculation started to peak, and people think Malaysia is trying to hide this because it's about military secrets. The searches are still going on, without getting any results back. And public opinion remains in a vicious cycle with the question, finally, what can make a giant airplane, most in the world, bring 239 people? They can disappear without a trace. Time goes by. From a scientific point of view and analysis, the truth behind the mysterious disappearance, it's also slowly being revealed. A conclusion is made based on the facts, and the evidence is the most widely supported. To mention that the plane crashed into the Indian Ocean. Like many other planes, Boeing 777, equipped with a satellite communication unit, it's called SATCOM, receiving and sending signals from the ground, provide detailed logs and complete flight data. Before takeoff, it's connected to a docking station in Australia. Later in the flight, before it disappeared in the South China Sea, despite being constantly interrupted, request to log in again and automatically restore. But based on satellite communications analysis between aircraft and satellite communication network 3F1 of the British Friction Company, experts of the investigation branch about plane crash, it was concluded that the plane was actually flying along the southern corridor towards the Indian Ocean and it fell at a location in the 7th arc, Western region per Australia. As if to reinforce the above arguments, the experts also confirmed, on the plane equipped with underwater locator transmitter, if the collision is strong enough. If the collision is strong enough, it can create a sound and be recorded by an underwater device called a hydrophone. These are the supposed sound signals of MH370. Through collection from pages, it is calculated that the MH370 is at a depth of nearly 4,000 meters under the ocean. This is not enough to convince everyone. Some other opinions suggest that it's just the sound, geological activities on the seabed. Those signals are too vague to be able to draw an accurate conclusion. Everything seems to be going to a dead end. Then, in the 29th of July 2015, the most compelling evidence has emerged. In the Reunion small island of the Indian Ocean, 700 kilometers east of Madagascar, a 27 meters long piece of debris, 1 meter wide, being submerged for a long period of up to 6 months, covered in moss that washed up on the shore. It's confirmed to be the flaps of a Boeing 777. Out along the east coast of South Africa. A lot of other object fragments were also discovered. At least 31 of them were recovered. Through the process of investigation, Boeing's experts have determined that they belong to parts such as engine covers, the landing gear, and the tail of the plane. However, there's a point to note that even though the first traces have been found, it is believed to be the key to solving MH370 disappearance, a large-scale search of the area, with 120,000 square kilometers, with search support of unmanned submarines. They don't bring positive results. And, according to Professor Charitha of the University of Western Australia, based on research and calculations, if something really goes wrong, debris of the plane will emerge in the area around Reunion Island within 18 to 24 months. But at the current rate, it's too early and it's hard to identify. Many in the audience have questioned that. Who knows the shards above? Is it really MH370? And even if it's true, then why did it fly off course? Why did it fall to the bottom of the Indian Ocean? That question laid the groundwork for a theory. It's like a lot of other flights. The plane caught fire. According to information recorded that day, before taking off, 11 tea goods have been shipped on board, in which one condition contains up to 221 kilograms of lithium. It's said to be highly flammable and explosive, except in case it's not the ozone. According to Chris Goodfellow, a Canadian pilot with 20 years of experience, then the plane is still likely to catch fire due to an electrical failure, and when the plane is on fire, it's standard. The first thing that pilots need to do is to turn off the main circuit, then turn on each circuit until, when it is discovered that the circuit is malfunctioning, synonymous with that, the radar signals, transmitter, and the plane's SATCOM also malfunctioned or completely disabled. Right now, in an emergency situation, I had to fly the plane in trouble, just trying to put out the fire so the crew couldn't get back in touch for air traffic stations, and following the instincts of an experienced pilot, 18,365 flight hours, Captain Zahari, of course, find the nearest airport to try to land the plane. Back to Kuala Lumpur is the shortest way, but this area has rough terrain, with peaks over 2,400 meters high. It should be safer. The captain headed to Langkawi International Airport, where there's a 4 kilometers runway and can slowly land without any obstacles. That's why the plane skidded. So why didn't it land at the airport as planned? The fire caused oxygen to be lost. The plane's pressure has dropped dramatically. Toxic smoke is growing more and more. And even though it's equipped with a gas mask, the pilots couldn't hold out anymore. A similar incident happened. It's Heliod Airways Flight 522. All 3 crew members were unconscious, but autopilot mode, he flew the plane for another 2 hours. Also with MH370, it's been flying itself for almost 7 hours, until we run out of fuel in the Indian Ocean. Here, some people start to argue that there's no driving mode. You can keep the plane moving with a strange orbit, like MH370. And given that this theory does not have enough evidence to prove it, public opinion is starting to converge on another theory. More likely, Captain, the flight operator, wanted to die. Some Australian investigators pointed out on a TV show that the Malaysian captain deliberately took the plane out of radar range to plunge into the sea. They found out before the last communication. The plane's radar was turned off. And of course, in this case, no one has the right to influence and force test pilot the plane beyond the captain. According to pilot Simon Hardy, a veteran pilot of the Boeing 777, Captain Zahari cut off all communications, flying back and forth between Malaysian airspace, Thailand, and turned towards his hometown of Penang, looking back at home for the last time. They've also come up with a psychological analysis that says, instead of repeating the frequency signal for the air traffic station, the captain's last words were, "Good night, MH370. It's like being ready for work. He sent all 239 people to their deaths. In these trajectory paths, it seems like there's a psychological struggle going on. And finally, he waited for the plane to run out of fuel, let it plunge itself into the sea. So what's the co-pilot doing right now? These experts also analyzed. The young co-pilot just switched to this plane. It's not long, and it's only 38 hours of flying over 777, along with hierarchical relationships. Then, of course, he won't be able to intervene into the captain's behavior. This argument has been met with opposition and harsh criticism from relatives and the captain's colleagues. Through investigation, the captain is living a very happy life with his wife and children. Along with that, he doesn't have a mental illness. If he really wants to die, why doesn't the plane go into the water? But trying to control the plane for hours on end. Then the plane crashed into the Indian Ocean. After the captain's argument, it's not over. There's been another conspiracy theory about MH370 related to the captain, but this time it's about politics. According to Malaysia Stress Time, the 16th of March 2014, Captain Zahari, he is a member of the People's Justice Party, an opposition coalition party of Malaysia. It was headed by politician Ibrahim Anwar. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison for same-sex love. This is considered illegal in Malaysia. This is also the source which led to the captain letting the plane go around in an attempt to negotiate Ibrahim's release, but met failure. And that is, he sent the plane crashing into the most remote part of the South Indian Ocean. This detail is not widely known, because this is a political loophole that Malaysia tried to cover up. in addition to hypotheses related to technical malfunction and crew. Remember, we have a factor that we can't ignore. It's from the third party. The plane was hijacked by terrorists. Let's go back to the evening the 3rd of August 2014. At Kuala Lumpur Airport, information that has been completely verified that, on a flight that day, there are 2 Iranian nationals. That's the suspicious point here. They're using fake passports as a citizen of Austria and Italy. From there, the question arises that, yes or no, the terrorists were on the plane. Even after 9/11s in the United States, the cockpit of all airlines, always be secure. It's very difficult to get into. But in the design of Boeing 777, they've discovered a flaw. Its equipment chamber. It's a very large room. It's just outside the cockpit door, close to the kitchen. And the key is that the trapdoors don't normally lock, because they couldn't predict that I could break in here, in addition to maintenance staff, or whether there is, they must also be highly specialized, and they have to be very well trained. Then, you can access the computer control system, but the most impossible thing has come true. The hijacker successfully entered the control room and destroyed the entire communication system and navigation components, then depressurized the plane. It knocked the pilot and passengers unconscious. Their goal is to take control. Aircraft control. Around this conclusion, Russian newspaper Moskovsky Komsomolsk, April 7, 2014, a source from a Russian intelligence agency, and has been confirmed by several other foreign intelligence agencies, say that the plane number MH370 of the Malaysian flag carrier was controlled by terrorists, and it's now in the southeastern part of Kandahar, Afghanistan, near the Pakistani border. They're going to use the plane for a different purpose, and the passengers themselves were taken hostage. During Malaysia Airlines, we haven't recovered from the March 8th earthquake. The airline's flight MH17 continued to crash when he was shot down by an eastern rebel, Ukraine. And from there was another conclusion about the fate of MH370, that the plane was shot down in a US and Thai military exercise. This theory was put forward in a book called The Mystery of Flight MH370 by the British writer Nigel Cawthorne. In the context of the world, there's a lot going on, hot in the South China Sea. The author connected this with witness statements, marquee, that he saw a plane on fire plunge into the Gulf of Thailand. Cawthorne explained, this exercise involves a fake war, on land, sea, in the air, and live shooting exercises. A participating team accidentally shot down the MH370 because they misunderstand that this plane is trying to fly and attack, same way with the 9/11's attacks. And of course, related to sensitive issues, politically and militarily, this secret will never be revealed. Next door, statements related to specific issues, string. Some of the conspiracy theories are arguably darker. Appeared. MH370 disappeared, like the sinking of the Titanic involving patents. Like the J.P. Morgan mass extermination theory. In the sinking of the Titanic, when you are said to have destroyed, who are vehemently opposed, the idea of creating the United States Federal Reserve, MH370 has a similar coincidence. There were 4 Chinese passengers on the flight, working for Freescale Semiconductor. The point is that these 4 people, named in a US patent, for aerospace material is graphene. That's supposed to change the entire aerospace industry. According to the law, when 4 patent holders died, their ownership will go to the Freescale company. And it's a coincidence when the holder of shares of this company, Jacob Rothschild, member of the illustrious Rothschild family. No one can know. What did he do to hide it? And remember, there's not any possibility that's ruled out. Even though 20 employees of this company are missing. With MH370, but they're both Malaysian and Chinese nationals. No one is an American citizen. A next theory, the world is also paying close attention. That's the plane that went into the time gap. In the era of modern technology like today, a large commercial aircraft like the MH370 is missing without anyone knowing what happened to it, and the 239 people that are stuck on it is unimaginable. It's not acceptable in any way. The logical answer can only be the mysteries of the universe beyond, where people will not. You can never discover the power and its true power. And you know what? MH370 actually accidentally went into a time gap. Then at some point they'll come back to Earth. The next theory. MH370 has fallen into the hands of aliens. Even though it's considered a strange theory, so many people are still interested in the possibility. MH370 aircraft, she was abducted by aliens. This is evidenced by a survey of American television. In 2014, 10% of Americans believed that. At the time of the MH370 incident, number of Twitter users received a message with a strange code.
As dangerous SOS is extremely dangerous thing. If you evacuate carefully, they're not human. 04293396423 OSOS dangerous SOS.
Some people say that the numbers above are a set of coordinates when enabled on Google Maps to a site in Africa and near Malaysia. Although not confirmed, but according to scientists' predictions, the extraterrestrial forces are becoming more and more smart and inventing out these technologies, even beyond the human imagination. And in the future, when the war happened between us and the aliens, MH370 is the secret hostage they're trying to hide. After a series of explanations about the disappearance of MH370, in the end, each of us has the right to believe that. What is the most appropriate answer? And of course, until we find more, any sign of the plane, unfortunately, we still have the right to hope for a scenario, a most fulfilling ending, because that's the wish. It is also the heart of those who have lost their loved ones. They never stop waiting for a miracle. It's like the story of two brothers. Eric is 11 years old and Antine is 6 years old. I lost both my parents on that fateful flight. To a child's innocent question that, when will my parents come back?